We always start by opening up Unity Hub. And here you can see the interface. And we got our projects and everything. But let's go to the blue button in the upper right, select New, and pick the Unity editor we wish to use. This will open up our project window. Now you're going to see a lot of options pop up here in a second. There they are. But we want the 3D preset here. That is Unity's standard pipeline. On the right-hand side of the project window, you'll see 3 dots. Let's click this and select a location for our project. Now you can choose any directory that's convenient for you. And then just hit select folder. And now let's give our project a name. I'm going to call ours standard_pipeline. When naming your Unity projects, you can use letters both capital and lowercase, underscores, and numbers. Avoid using any special characters. Lastly, we're going to click the Create button. It's in the lower right-hand corner. You'll see that Unity has started creating your project. Now, this may take a few minutes. You may be wondering, what is a Unity project? Well, a Unity project is a folder that you create that has a bunch of subdirectories inside of it. And in those subdirectories, Unity stores all the files that you need to create your final game or presentation or film that you're creating. Now that Unity has set up the project and opened up the editor window, I want to go ahead and change the layout. So I'm going to go to the upper right where you see the layout drop down, and I'm going to change it to a wide layout. Now, this is going to refresh the interface, and since I'm recording on part of the screen, I'm going to need to adjust it so it fits back in our recording window. Let's talk about the asset store and how you get items from the asset store into Unity. Now, in the old days, we'd go to Asset Store in the Windows menu here. If you click on this, you'll see now that you actually have to use the Package Manager. Now, this opened up in a tab, and you can see that we have several tabs, and you can just right-click to close this tab. Now, I should mention that every window here is actually a tab. I'll grab our game window here and drag it next to the scene window. So inside the Unity editor, the layout is entirely up to you. You can move them, you can right-click to close them, and you can rearrange them any way you wish. Now the editor has our scene window in the upper left. We have our game view on the right. The hierarchy window lists everything that's going to be in our scene. On the right, we have the inspector, and that just gives us details about whatever item we have selected. Last but not least, we have the project window, which you see here in the lower right. Now this lists everything that's in your project directory. You can go folder by folder and see exactly what you currently have in your project. Now let's look where Unity wants you to go to retrieve any assets you may have purchased. You want to go to the Package Manager window. This can be found in the Windows menu at the top of your screen. Now once you have it open, you're going to want to find the words Packages in Project. This is a drop-down menu. Select it and go to My Assets. It'll take a second for it to pop up while it retrieves your information, but then you'll see every single asset that you ever purchased from the asset store. And you can go through this list and pick whichever assets you want to bring into your project. The Package Manager also has a search option. It's in the upper right-hand corner of the window. I'm just going to type in Gaia and find the list of products that I have that it relates to the word Gaia. It's going to list all of Procedural Worlds products and any products that mention that they work with Gaia. Now here's Gaia Pro. As soon as I selected it, it highlights it in blue and shows a description. It also gives you choices. Here you can see I need to update this version of the plugin, or I can just import the version I have stored locally on my hard drive. Now in your case, you're going to want to hit the update button if it says you need to update. Then when it's done updating, you're going to hit the import button. But for the purposes of this video, I was given a copy of the latest version of Gaia Pro 2021. So I'm going to load it and import it locally from my hard drive. But in your case, you'll always be using the Package Manager. I'm going to close this window. And then I'm going to go up to the Assets menu, which is in the upper left. And I'm going to go to Import Package, Custom Package. Unity package files are very similar to zip files. The only difference really is that they have a .unity package extension instead of a .zip. And they do the same thing. They basically store multiple files in a compressed format. Let's go ahead and pause the recording because this may take a few minutes, and I'll resume the recording when it's done importing. When you use the package manager to import Gaia, you're going to see this exact same window pop up. Now what it is a listing of all the files that are in Gaia's Unity package. And you're going to have to click the import button to bring them into the project. After you click import, you're going to see Unity thinking for a couple of minutes. You may even see a progress bar as it brings items into the project. And what it's doing is literally manually copying all the files into your project directory. As soon as this import process is completed, you'll notice in the project window in the lower right that new folders and files will appear. Now that Gaia is done importing, we can go down to the project window and actually see the different directories and subdirectories that it's created. Also, you may have noticed that up in the upper right-hand corner, there is a description of the package we just imported with a version number and a name so you know what you brought into your project. At this point, it's a very good time for us to save this project. We've imported a lot of files, and whenever you do that, you're going to want to go to the File menu and select Save Project. Gaia is now installed. You can check this by going to the Window menu, and you'll see a Procedural Worlds menu. Not only can you start Gaia from this menu, but you also have links to all of Procedural Worlds tutorials and products. Now let's launch Gaia for the first time. We're going to go up to the Window menu. We're going to go down to Procedural Worlds, go to Gaia, Show Gaia Manager. It's going to hesitate for a couple of minutes while it actually prepares and puts elements into your scene. You'll see this progress bar for maybe a few seconds, and then it's going to ask you if you want to go to the Gaia website and view some tutorials while it does the final preparation on your project. Don't worry if you actually click no thanks, because at any time you can go up to the Procedural Worlds menu and reopen these links for the web page. Since this step takes a bit of time, I'm going to speed up the footage. As soon as it completes its tasks, you'll see the Gaia Manager window open up. So now I'm just going to adjust it, make it a little larger so we can see it more easily on the screen. While I'm adjusting the window, if you look at it, you'll see that the main menu is broken up into 3 categories. 1 is Setup Project, 2 is Create World, and 3 is Create Runtime. And those 3 sections are all you really need to get a basic scene going. In this first window, in the Setup Project window, you'll see right away that there's a list of things that Gaia recommends you change. Right now, we do not have post-processing. Some of you might be asking, well, what is post-processing? Typically, when a game is playing or rendering, it'll go through and it'll look through the camera. It will figure out the lighting. It will figure out what objects it sees, and it will figure out the shadows. And then it delivers that to the screen, and that's what you see when you're playing a video game. But before it delivers to the screen, it does have the option to take that image that it's created from all that information and add what we call a post effect. It could be to tint the frame a certain color. It could be to adjust the exposure. It could be to add an optical effect to give a distortion. That's what post-processing is. We can go back to the package manager and actually install post-processing. But first, let's change the color space. The second item on the list is switching to linear color space. Now, as soon as we do this, it's actually going to have to go through all the materials and make adjustments. So there will be a slight delay while it's actually prepping everything for the new color space. In the standard pipeline, There's linear color space and there's gamma color space. Typically, linear color space is going to give you a higher quality image. And everything that we're doing that's in the list in section 1 of the Gaia Manager menu is actually to improve image quality. Now I'm going to speed up the video a little bit here, and as soon as it's done processing, we will move on to setting up the next steps. Now that it's done, let's go ahead and open up the Gaia Manager window again and see what else we need to do. I'm just going to go ahead and enlarge it again so it's easier for everyone to read. So we definitely need post-processing, and it looks like we need to switch to the deferred rendering path. So let's do the post-processing first. We'll close this and go back to our package manager. When the package manager opens and refreshes, we're going to see that we're still looking at all the assets we purchased from the asset store. What we need to do is select this drop-down, go to Unity Registry, and then I'll type in post in the search field in the upper right. And there's our post-processing package. It's currently version 3.1.1. Let's go ahead and hit the install button. And again, it's going to take Unity a few seconds to install the package. As soon as this finishes, I'll show you how you can see all the packages you have in your project. Now it's really simple. You just go back to the drop-down that we used originally, and you select In Project, and this is currently all the packages that you have installed in this project. Now you can also update them there if you need to. Now we'll go back up to the window menu, Procedural Worlds, Gaia, Show Gaia Manager. Unity's standard pipeline uses forward rendering by default, but it has the option to use deferred rendering, which is going to give you higher quality lighting and shadows. So we're going to go ahead and switch this, and again, it's going to have to process some changes. Now that it's done, we can move to phase 2 in the menu, Create World. So I'll go ahead to the center of the menu here and click on Create World, and we'll see all these new options. You don't have to ever worry about clicking any of these buttons out of order, by the way. You can see here that you can click through any of these buttons at any time. And you can actually go back and redo sections at any time. And of course, there's also a help button, linked to all the tutorials and documentation as well. Now let's go back to Create World, and even here you'll see a little question mark, and clicking on it will provide you with additional help. If you ever see a plus symbol, this is always going to bring you to any advanced features for that item. Let's go ahead and move this window to the side and look inside the scene view. You're going to see if we pull back that there's actually this green cube. Now the green cube is where it's going to create your world. Now, if I go over here and change any of the sizes, you can see that the green cube changes to match the size. If you wish, you can also create multiple terrains. Now we'll do this by going to Custom, and here we can select any number in the X and the Z, and it will create a grid of multiple terrains. The next two options in the list allow you to actually change the size of each tile and their height as well. But I'm going to keep it simple on this first example, and I'll just set these back to 1 and 1, and we'll keep it at a single terrain. So if we look down the list, the next item is called Target Platform, and it's exactly what it sounds like. They want to know what hardware you're going to be running this on when you've completed your project. Let's go ahead and click on the drop-down and see what the choices are. We have ultralight hardware, we have mobile and VR hardware, we have desktop, which is the default, we have powerful desktop, and then we have custom. Using custom is going to allow you to control the number of objects that you spawn and the resolution of your terrains. Currently, I'm using a fairly new computer, so I could use Powerful Desktop or Desktop, either one. We'll go ahead and set it to Powerful Desktop. The next section is called Target Biome. The most important thing about biomes are that you understand that they are literally just collections. They can be collections of spawners that spawn objects at runtime. They could be collections of materials. They could be collections of 3D models, or all of those things combined. Spawners are incredibly powerful in this system. Typically, biomes will be named after specific areas in an artist's terrain, like swamp or desert or forest. But the fact of the matter is, biomes can literally be anything that you want them to be. Now, if I go over and click on the little plus sign, you'll actually see what's in the giant forest biome here. It's a collection of textures, 3D models, and spawners. In future videos, we will be making some custom biomes. The last option on the menu is Workflow. Now, under Workflow, you have two choices, Manual with Stamper or World Designer. Out of the two, World Designer is the newer system, but Manual with Stamper has its place and can actually be used with World Designer. Let's go ahead and select the World Designer. And as soon as we do this, we're going to see that we have this black button called Create World Designer on the right-hand side. We'll go ahead and select that, and it's going to give us a preview of our terrain. And here is our preview. Now I'll just move this screen out of the way a bit. For those of you who are new to Unity, you can hold down Alt and use the left, middle, and right mouse button to navigate around in your scene view. The World Designer preview gives you some idea of scale. You can see that there's measurements running down two sides. It also gives you some idea of where the ocean is going to be placed. And if we look in the Gaia Manager, I'll just bring it back up, you can see that it's already prompted us to go to section 3 in the menu. So Gaia Manager is smart enough to know what you're currently doing and where you're currently at. But you can always go back. We can literally click on any of these menus and start at any step all over again. Let's take a quick look at what Gaia has put in our scene. If you look at the hierarchy window, you can see now there's the directional light, the main camera, Gaia tools, and you can see that World Designer is selected. This means that if you look at the inspector on the right, you'll see all the options for the World Designer. This includes a large black button called Generate World to actually create our world when we're ready to do so. At this point, we're at a good spot to actually save the scene and to save the project. So in here, I'm just going to find a folder and type a name for my scene. I'll call it standard_001. And now I'll go to File, Save Project. So now we've saved both the scene and the project data. So just to recap, we open the Gaia Manager, we use the three menus, and those three menus create control objects in the scene's hierarchy window. Then we can select any of those control objects in the hierarchy, and we'll see additional controls in the inspector window, which is usually on the right-hand side of your user interface. With the World Designer selected in the hierarchy, I have a few buttons that I can press. I'm going to go ahead and click Randomize Stamps, which is going to alter this terrain, and I'll just keep doing it until I find one that I like. This one seems really nice, so I'll go ahead and click Generate World, which is the black button. And it will think for a second and create our world. Now it's going to give you this warning, and it's fine. Just click OK. The warning just lets you know that if you've already built a terrain, it's going to destroy it and create a new one, which is fine because this is actually our first terrain. What Gaia is doing right now is constructing your terrain, placing textures on your terrain, and adding a placeholder for where the ocean's going to be. As we take a look at our new world, we can see that we've got a very good start going. We know where our ocean's going to be, we know what our terrain is going to look like, and it has all its textures. But we are missing something, and that is the objects from our biome. Now notice that Gaia has already selected the giant forest biome in the hierarchy. One of the things that I want you to be aware of is that on this sample scene, we are only using a single biome. There is nothing to stop you from having multiple biomes in your world. Now, biomes can obviously be quite complex. You can see here we can adjust the sea level, and we have many spawners to spawn different items. Now, it is beyond the scope of an introductory tutorial to go over all these features, but we will have videos for each and every one of them coming out. So for now, just focus on the fact that we're going to spawn this biome. To spawn the biome, all we have to do is find the black spawn biome button and click it once. At that point, you're going to see Gaia and the Unity editor create all the things that were in your biome. Now, depending on how complex your biome is, it may take a few minutes, but it will show a progress bar, and that will go away when it is done building your scene. It's all done now, so what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to use the power window in the scene view and just click on the manager button, and it'll bring up Gaia Manager again for us. And as you can see, we're on section 3 now. I'll just quickly make the window a little larger so it's easier to read. Let's choose a player controller for our game. We can do first person, flying camera, third person, car, VR, custom, or none. Let's go ahead and choose third person. Now we have to choose a sky. We have morning, day, evening, night, Unity's default, procedural world sky, or no sky at all. I'm going to leave the post-processing and the quick light bake turned on. And for the water, we have deep blue ocean, clear ocean, standard lake, standard clear lake, low poly, or none. Well, I like the deep blue ocean. The next two options are if we want underwater effects and if we want the wind system. And if so, we have a drop down for how strong we can have the wind. I'm just going to keep it at calm. The last three options are if we want ambient audio in the world. The next option is the screenshotter option. This allows you to take pictures while you move around inside of your world. The last setting we have is the location manager. Now, this actually allows you to bookmark different locations in your world and move your player and or your camera to those locations. We're not going to be using it in this tutorial, but it doesn't hurt anything to just leave it on, so we will. The last step is to go over to Create Runtime and click on it. You'll see a window pop up explaining what it's about to do, and hit yes, and then Gaia will make all your runtime elements. You'll see some activity going on in the background as Unity and Gaia build all the objects and everything that we specified. Now we can just go ahead and close this window and we are ready to play in our world. In the game window, I'll make sure that maximize on play is set and then hit the play button. At this point, your Gaia world is ready. You can run around. You're going to notice that there are birds flying around. There are butterflies flying around. Plants react to the wind. Now, you're not going to hear any audio because I have the audio for the world turned down while I do the voice narration, but it is actually there. And this is just a basic walkthrough of what you can do with Gaia. Now, in future videos, we're going to talk about spawners in depth. We're going to talk about biomes in depth. And we're going to talk about masking in depth. All of these things allow you to create your own worlds that are fully customizable. But for now, you have the basics under your belt and you can start creating your own worlds.